Hey everybody, welcome to Garage Story. So this is a Suzuki King Quad 300 that I purchased for $200 the same day I bought the Yamaha Banshee for $400. So my goal today is to see if I can get this thing running. So let's do it. Okay, so quick walk around of this four-wheeler. It looks to be in pretty decent shape overall. The plastic has a crack here. It looks like original tires on here. The front tires hold air, the back tires do not hold air so well. The rear rack is bent just slightly. If you look at it from here, you can see it's bent off at this point. So this machine could have been rolled. Plastic's just slightly faded, seats in good condition. Up here, the ignition switch has been pulled out and stuff has been disconnected, so that may be our biggest issue in getting this thing running. It shows 885.6 miles, and we've got 906 on the trip meter. And I'm kind of curious how a trip meter can have more than the odometer. Like, how can it have more than the miles the machine's traveled? Unless it reads faster somehow. The front axles in here are pretty tight. There's a little bit of wiggle to those. I'm not sure if that mileage is entirely correct. Let's see if it still turns over. I tried the pull start a few weeks ago and it turned over just fine. So here's the pull start, and the compression release is on the other side. Yeah, got the compression release engaged. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it turns over. The compression release kicked off there and it's a lot harder to turn over. So it's got good compression. We'll see if we can dive into the electrical side and get this thing some spark and fuel and see if she'll fire. There's no battery in there. So got a battery hooked up, and there's no way to know how good those connections are until you start trying stuff. If this thing has been hot wired, we might get power the way it is. I'm not seeing any signs of power. Hitting the start button. So I may have to start digging into this electrical here, and they didn't take this thing apart the right way. So what else is going on in here? Okay, so since I already have a King Quad, I also have a manual, which is for the first generation, but I think a lot of stuff is really the same. So looking in here, the electrical system and how it works, we've got our starter button here, we've got our kill switch, and we've got our ignition switch, and it's a simple off-on. So it looks to me that depending on how the wiring connects to that switch, we might be able to hotwire it really easily, which could have been what was already done. But we also found in here how to take apart the speedometer housing, the dash panel, and I think what they're missing is that the knob there for resetting your trip meter. It has a little tiny screw in the middle of it. So hopefully I can get that with this screwdriver. So we'll see about that, and then if we can pull that cover off, I think it'll help to look at it. And I brought over my battery from the other four-wheeler, so hopefully that'll help make sure we have good juice, good connections. Probably clean up those wire ends a little bit, connect it to the battery, and then put the jumper cables on the battery. And we should be fine as far as juice goes. I found that there was one more little screw underneath everything, and I was able to pull that case off. This case is on the underside there, and this screw right here was still in there. So I pulled that out, and able to get things separated, get this moved off, but that cable to the speedometer kind of keeps things tight. So I'm looking at this, and I think this may actually be my ignition wire. Not 100% sure, but I'm gonna see if I can short across this. I don't know what this one is. See, it could be this plugs into the ignition, or this, or both. But the wire diagram just basically shows one wire in, one wire out. So I'm gonna try jumpering both of those and see if either of those do anything. All right, so here's my jumper wire, just a real short piece of wire. Stick it in here. Nothing. So I don't think it's this one. So now let's try over in here. Okay, I turned on my headlights there. So I think we're in the right direction here. That's going across from this big red wire to the little grayish wire. Let's try the big red wire to the orange wire and see if that's what we need. Assuming the red wire is power coming in. Aha! My neutral light came on. It's a good sign. I need to check my air filter, and yeah, it looks pretty nasty. So I don't really want to crank this much at all without cleaning that out. I don't want to suck stuff in there. I'm gonna hit this start button real quick and see if anything happens. All right, we now have everything we need to make this thing run. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can clean out the air filter box, and we'll check the oil, and then we'll start trying to give this thing fuel and see if it'll start. Okay, got the air filter box a lot cleaner than it was. It was just a sticky residue of disintegrated air filter. There's a little screen in there. I don't know if you can see it real well, but hopefully I got that clean enough. I probably pushed some stuff through the screen. I tried to scrape off what I could, and I sprayed some carb cleaner in there. I don't really think that anything there is really gonna mess up anything, so I'm not too worried about that. I could try to pull this entirely apart there and clean it off, but from past experience, I know that this air filter box is really difficult to get out of there. So I think we're gonna be okay. You know, if I'm wrong, then you can learn from my lesson. So next thing up is, does this thing have oil? There's the oil sight glass right there. Looks like it's right in the middle. Yep. So we should be good. Now, we can try to fire it up on carb cleaner. With the hot wire in here, we should be able to fire it up. Let's do it. All right, everybody, this is the moment of truth. You think it'll run or not? I haven't even checked for spark. So I'm just gonna spray this in here, hit the starter button, and see what happens. I think it's gonna run. Oh yeah, it runs. So that was on no choke. Put it on choke. That sounded good. I like that. So now I figured out the hot wire for the ignition switch up there, so that's good. I might try to put this instrument cluster back together a little bit, because it's kind of disorganized and out of the way there. So this is my key, I guess. Right now though, I want to put fuel in the tank and see if it'll run through the carburetor. So the petcock on these machines is kind of interesting. You've got, I don't know if you can read it, you've got your reserve up top, prime here, and on the bottom. And looking at the way this thing works, it looks like we're on reserve right now. Ah, it's frozen. No, there we go. So this would be prime, and this would be on. It's also a really large petcock. You can see back there, there's a lot to it. So the reason for that is this petcock is a vacuum operated petcock. So basically it's supposed to be like an automatic shut off when the engine is not running, instead of trying to turn it off and on. So a normal petcock would have off, on, and reserve. And your on and reserve circuits in the petcock, it's needing the vacuum operated section, the diaphragm or whatever, to open it up, which gets opened up with the engine cranking and running. So in prime, it's a bypass, which doesn't require the diaphragm. So you can kind of, the prime is almost like the run or the on a normal petcock. It's just a straight flow of fuel. I don't know if it's from the higher level or the lower level, the run or reserve, but there's no true off on these petcocks. And when it works well, it works well. Sometimes these petcocks, from what I've heard, I think can get old and the diaphragm stops working. Then you can have issues, and the worst thing would be if there's a hole in the diaphragm and then you can flood your engine. But for the most part, it's kind of nice to not need to worry about turning off and on your petcock. All that to say, I'm probably just gonna put it on prime and put some gas in the tank and see what she does. So there is pretty much no gas in here. Yeah, you can see there's the towers. Oh yeah, that's nasty, some sludge down there. I might try my siphon pump and see if I can suck some of that crud out of there. I'm gonna set it to prime. I realized I don't have a lot of gas here, so I wasn't able to put enough in here to get it past the reserve. So hopefully the prime pulls from the reserve. So anyway, let's try it out. because those carburetors, they're not fun to take out, so I'm hoping I don't have to take this one out. It's getting a little too much air because there's no air filter in there, which is why I have it partially choked right now. But I think I'm going to take the air filter out of my other King Quad and throw it in here. See if we can't take this for a spin a little bit. He's got really good throttle response for a King Quad. Alright, so I pulled the air filter out of my other Suzuki King Quad, and it's a pretty nice clean filter to use. So we'll throw this in there, and let's try to clean some of the crud off of here. Use some carb cleaner and a brush. Just get off what's loose on here. And try to put the dash panel back together a little bit. Put some more gas in there because I just went to the store and got some more gas. And we'll see if we can't take this thing for a spin. That was full choke. Let's try no choke. I'm gonna go through all the ranges and try to make sure high, low, super low, two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, and four-wheel drive diff lock all work. It runs pretty good. You can hear a little tapping in there. So the valves maybe could be adjusted. It's not that bad. It's a foot shift, so there's no clutch. And it's really weird to drive that right after driving a four-wheeler where you have to use a clutch, like the Banshee. I find myself grabbing the rear brake when I'm trying to shift gears just because, oh, I need to clutch it. But no, you don't need to clutch it. So it's kind of weird going back and forth. Yeah, this thing runs great. What do we need to do to it? We need to buy another air filter for it. We need to fix the back tires so they aren't leaking. Change the oil filter, get a battery for it, get an ignition switch, and maybe try to straighten out this rack a little bit, but I think this thing's gonna be good for a while. And check this out. We've got a spot back here. The first aid kit, and also the original owner's manual. So that's pretty cool that this thing came with the owner's manual. Yeah, she's a good little four-wheeler. Well, that was fun. I'm glad I didn't flip the four-wheeler over on me there. That was kind of a little dicey. Anyway, four-wheeler did great. It pulled right on up out of the ditch. This thing is just so much fun to ride. It's, I guess, way less powerful than the Yamaha Banshee, but for my yard size and what I do, it's just a ton of fun to ride, and it can go more places, it can pull more stuff, you can hold stuff on it. That doesn't mean I'm getting rid of the Banshee. Believe me, I'm hanging on to the Banshee for a while, and we'll keep working on it and trying to make it better. But this King Quad, I just really like the Suzuki King Quads. Their setup is phenomenal. Man, it's just always so special the first time you hear an engine fire up that's been sitting for a long time. It's just, I don't know, it's really cool. I really like doing this kind of stuff. And it's a pleasure to take you guys along for the journey.